we're seeing kind of a slight softening in the market. And we don't think that it's just specific to Chatham. We've talked to some other people in other markets that we're seeing that there might be a slight softening. But this is the first time that we've seen, you know, a good decrease month over month. And so we thought that this was really the metric that we wanted to talk about the most, because for buyers and investors too, it could be a good time to get into the market, because we don't know what the market's going to do. We don't know if it's going to continually going down. I think that we would say that it's not going to, but the fact that we're seeing a little bit of a softening, you know, in May and perhaps even in June, that it could be a good buying opportunity for investors and just home buyers alike. Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody, to Matt McKeever's YouTube channel. I know you guys came here today to do some learning, and that's exactly what we've got for you today. We've actually got Kelly-Anne and Dane Appleton back on the channel. They're our Chatham experts, and these guys are real estate agents in Chatham. And last time they were here, they broke down some deals and did some cool market updates and statistics for us on the Chatham market. And today we wanted to come back and actually talk about some of the changes that are going on in Chatham. And I think it's really important that you guys understand how valuable it is to have these local experts, because if you're someone like me and you're looking at real estate all over the province, you know, you could be looking in London, Sarnia, Windsor, Chatham, you could be looking east of Toronto. And if you're like me, you're also looking up north. But the only way to really understand these markets is to talk to somebody that works there, lives there, and works, you know, professionally at understanding the numbers and the different social contexts inside the city every day. Okay, you can't possibly understand how much work goes into analyzing a market and how much work goes into really understanding what's going on there, especially if you're not there. And I know that a lot of you guys watching this channel don't necessarily live in Chatham. So I think it's really cool to have Kelly-Anne and Dane back today to go over some of the changes that have been going on in the market lately. So welcome back, guys. Introduce yourselves, and then let's hear about some of the changes.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Adam. We're, yeah, as you said, Dane and Kelly-Anne Appleton. We're realtors here in the Chatham market, Chatham-Kent market, I should say. And we're also investors in the Chatham-Kent market. So we love talking about investing in Chatham, and we think that it is such a great market for people to be looking into. And we're really excited to teach and let people know about how great it really is.
And we're both full-time realtors, and my husband and I started investing in Chatham just over 11 years ago, and now exclusively invest in Chatham-Kent. Dane got into the game a few years ago, and so between us, we have a large amount of properties and a variety of different properties. So not only do we understand the real estate market as realtors, but we do have a really good sense as investors of, you know, what makes a great investment.
I think that's super key too, because what the viewer might not understand is how important the difference is between working with somebody who's gone through the process themselves and just working at it from like a textbook context. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the textbook doesn't really inform you about some of the nuances that can go into writing a great offer or analyzing a deal for actual investment purposes. And I think this is something that we've always talked about, both Matt and myself, and I learned this from Matt from day one, is your service provider or your power team member should really have some super experience in investing themselves, so that they know, you know, the difference between cluttering up and building up this huge Schedule A that's very hard to read and difficult to understand, and the difference between that and putting some just tactical exit clauses or different clauses that might help them to have a better, more effective offer. And I think that's something that can only be gained by that type of experience. And it's really cool too to hear the update, and we're about to hear this market update from your perspective as people that actually invest in that market. Because sometimes one of the dangerous things that I find is some people might talk about a city, but they don't really understand the nuances of the different neighborhoods and where you should invest and what those price changes look like, or whether or not a price is a good price, right? Because sometimes we hear a low number. Okay, and I've made this big mistake in my career where you hear a really low number and you go, oh, wow, what a deal. I'm going to buy there. and then it's like a D- neighborhood, and you're in deep trouble. And if you're like me, you get your copper stolen right out of the walls. You get broken into several times and all your tools jacked. And so I think that's really what the value is here. And for everybody watching, I'm really excited to have these guys here to present these real numbers and real insights into the market, so that you don't make mistakes like I did. So
it's great that you bring that up, Adam, because as we get into this presentation, we're going to give you a deep dive into what areas we do like, and then some of the areas that we don't like. And these are with personal experience. The areas that we don't like, we haven't personally invested there too heavily, just because we think there are some mitigating factors there. But for the areas that we do like, we're going to chat about our personal experience and why we do prefer that, not only as realtors, but as investors also. So we'll get into the presentation here.
We're going to start, obviously, the first thing we want to just mention is a couple things that have, one big investment that's taken place in Chatham-Kent. Just to let you know that we are maybe small in population, we're large in area, but we also have some really key investments happening in Chatham that I think are going to improve the city. So we have a group of local investors who have invested in many different areas of Chatham and who have really spent a huge amount of money. And some of these guys just purchased a 100-acre vacant property that's in the picture. That's really in a central location. It used to be an old Navistar plant. It's been sitting vacant for 10 years. And they just purchased it and are going to be cleaning up the area, servicing it, and it's going to be a property that is available for built-to-suit industrial and commercial use. So they've said that they've already got people interested in moving to Chatham for that. So that's really going to hopefully build our commercial and industrial base and bring more people to Chatham-Kent. And the other thing I just wanted to mention is our new construction. We have an unbelievable amount of new construction happening in our city, and I know that anybody who's looking for a new build, there's really nothing right now to buy. The first dates that are available are basically a year from now. So mid-2022, some builders are even looking into 2023 for completion dates. So that, I just think goes to the confidence that, that the builders have in the market in Chatham and the growth in the Chatham-Kent area.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, guys. I mean, you know, that amount of new inventory and opportunity there is something I think people are going to be really thinking about when they're thinking about these smaller markets. So, no, that sounds like a huge opportunity, right, for the city, for anybody investing.
Definitely.
So in terms of the residential side of things and the average sale price, so just from May 2020 to May 2021, you'll see that in May 2020, we had an average sale price of $325,926. And then May of this year, we had a average sale price of $389,528. So that's a 19% increase, so nearly 20%. So again, we're seeing some great growth. But really the key information that we want to talk about is more so in the short term. What has happened from April of this year to May of this year? Last time we were on the channel, we were talking about April 2021 and how impressive the numbers were. So we had an average sale price of $424,406. That number fell in May of 2021. So that's an 8% decrease month over month. And you know, we're seeing kind of a slight softening in the market, and we don't think that it's just specific to Chatham. We've talked to some other people in other markets that we're seeing that there might be a slight softening, but this is the first time that we've seen, you know, a good decrease month over month. And so we thought that this was really the metric that we wanted to talk about the most, because for buyers and investors too, it could be a good time to get into the market, because we don't know if what the market's going to do. We don't know if it's going to continually going down. I think that we would say that it's not going to, but the fact that we're seeing a little bit of a softening, in May and perhaps even in June, that it could be a good buying opportunity for investors and just home buyers alike.
Yeah, so we're seeing less. We're actually seeing properties that are holding offers that are not getting any offers, which is something that we haven't seen in quite a while. We're seeing less offers on properties that are getting offers, lower above asking ratios, and less out of town buyers in the market. We were seeing that really, really consistently, and we're seeing less of those. We also have an increase in inventory, which of course is impacting the price too.
Yeah, I mean, these are all really interesting stats to look at. And one other just quick stat that I generally would look at too is, as we see a little bit more inventory, less offers, a little bit less demand, more often than not, I think there are these buying opportunities, particularly when you see that correlation between days on market increase as well. So you start seeing things sit a bit. And that's where I've often found that there are great buying opportunities as an investor, because you can possibly come in and offer something interesting, right? You could potentially do a creative offer where in the market that is in high demand and no supply, it's very, very difficult to make a creative offer. It's actually pretty hard because more often than not, you're competing with clean, firm offers that are at or above asking price. And I think that's where I find myself pulling back in a market where I think, oh man, maybe we're in a market condition where it's not advantageous to buy. So it is always interesting and potentially counterintuitive for some of the people watching to think, oh, the price is slightly sliding down. This is a buying opportunity. And it actually is, right? Because all of a sudden you can get more creative in your offering.
Yeah, buy low, sell high, right?
That's the idea.
Yeah, so we definitely, we think it's definitely a good time to consider, investing right now, definitely.
And some of the numbers that we've seen just on our MLS system, when we get the days, the solds on the day, we're seeing numbers that really aren't that crazy. Whereas, like in May or even March, you're seeing some of these sold prices that were 150,000 over asking, 100 over asking. And these are firm offers. Like those are cash offers. And now we're seeing almost like the comeback of the conditional offer, I would say. Mm-hmm. We're seeing, offers based on financing and inspection. That kind of was the norm before. And then we kind of headed into this, well, it has to be a clean offer if it wants to be accepted. Now we're seeing more conditional solds on the days. And then when they do go firm eventually, the numbers really have surprised us in some instances where I thought that property was going to sell for X amount and it sold for $30,000, $40,000 under that.
Wow.
And we can't really pinpoint one specific factor as to why that is, but we were saying that again in our last video that we had with Matt, we were saying that there are a ton of out-of-town buyers coming to Chatham. In the last little while, we've had quite a few listings and just haven't been getting the calls from out-of-town agents, out-of-town buyers, and it's just kind of interesting to note that source of buying has kind of softened a little bit, and we don't really know why.
Yeah, I mean, I think in some of the smaller markets, there can be a little bit of uncertainty there. And that's where I think, again, it's so important for anybody watching that's maybe thinking about Chatham. You need to work with somebody local. Like you literally need to work with somebody that knows what's going on, because I did not know about these two projects that you guys brought up on this video. But those types of projects, when I see that, I think, wow, infrastructure investment, I see population growth, I see jobs. If I see those things in a market, all of a sudden I'm looking at that market much more seriously than if I have no information on those few different bullet points. And I think as we look at these types of changes in a market, I think the only questions we really need to ask are, is my fundamental investing strategy changing? And if it is, do I need to change, right? Which means changing geography or changing strategies. But a softening price doesn't hurt if your rents and everything are still strong, right? Yeah, which more often than not, what do we see in a market that's softening? Your rents sure as hell are not, right? They're almost always constant and or growing. So that's really interesting. So speaking of that, what are some of the areas you think that we should be looking at then?
Well, first of all, we're going to start out with areas that we are not so favorite areas.
Hey, perfect. Tell me, give me the garbage first.
Yeah, that might be more important, what people really want to hear.
Yeah.
So yeah, and when we say not so favorite areas, there's money to be made in some of these areas, but you have to understand that this is going to be a low tenant profile. Like we're talking D, and we don't choose to invest in those kind of markets. So, but I know some people do. But if you are looking for a solid property where you can get, you know, decent tenants, these would not be the areas we would recommend. So this is considered the part of the East End. It's the East Central. Park Street, we have Park Ave, Park Street, and Park Lane. So some people get confused with these. Park Avenue is totally fine, good place to invest. Park Street is where you're going to run into some issues, and everything that comes off of Park Street. You can pick up a duplex there for probably under 200 grand, but you are going to have drug issues, crime issues, and we just recently sold a property in that area, and you know, when I would sit and wait for clients to show up, I would watch the drug deals go down on the street. So it's really a very low tenant profile. So we would recommend you probably stay away from that if you want to protect your investment.
And one other thing, just to piggyback off of that, is that we're just not seeing the kind of growth and appreciation in these areas that you might want to see. Whereas I own a property on Park Lane, which is, if you can see it, it's right outside of that box. That property has seen massive appreciation in the 2 years that I've owned it. However, if you walk just on the other side of Park Ave East there and go towards Park Street, those properties have not done nearly as well in terms of gaining a lot of value, just because the locals in Chatham know that that's really not an area they want to be in, but we're starting to see that even people from out of town know the names of some of these areas and streets that they've been told to stay away from. So there's cash flow opportunity, but in terms of a long-term gain, long-term investment, that appreciation and equity game just might not be there.
No park after dark is what I'm hearing.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
You're welcome. You got to keep it spicy here.
Yeah.
And I think one just thing I'll add to this is I've looked at these types of areas before, and my personal feeling to this, and if those of you who've been following along with Matt's channel for a long time, you all know Casey Wong, and Casey gave me some of the best advice I ever heard. He just said, buy better buildings and hold more cash. And this really speaks to me here when we're talking about this potentially like D-class neighborhood. Even though you see those cheap prices, I think there can be a lot of headaches there. And so I think that these areas don't always stay like that either. And so that's why, again, I think it's really neat to work with somebody like Kelly-Anne and Dane here, who can watch that for you, because you don't have time to do that when you're at your job or when you're full-time investing. You don't have time to be staring at this market. And someday that area might be the best place to invest because it would be so laggard on that appreciation. But I really think you guys got to take this into consideration, that this could be a bad spot right now. So no park after dark, guys.
Yeah,
that's right.
And then this is just another small area that, again, kind of rough. You're going to find good prices in this area. You're going to find some duplexes, few triplexes, things like that, single family homes. So this basically is Lorne, Gray, and Pattison, which is in the south end of Chatham. I would say some areas would be C, but anything kind of what we call deep into this neighborhood,
in the heart of
these streets, is going to be rough. But that being said, like we own a property that is just on Lorne, a duplex, but it's right at the corner of Lorne and Queen. So it's perfectly fine. Like it's a solid building in not a bad area. And we actually own another property right on Queen Street, right in that same area, and own a beautiful sixplex just a block away from that. So Chatham doesn't have what I would say really, other than that Park Street area, we don't have really bad areas. We have parts of areas that are not so great. So that's why it's really important to be able to talk to a local realtor who can say, you know what, this building on this street is probably going to be okay, but something deep in the heart of this is not going to be a solid investment. Again, we're not seeing the appreciation, and your property is not going to be well taken care of.
Yeah, I've seen some really, really, really rough stuff on Gray Street, so I know, I personally know what you're talking about here. Yeah. Trust these guys. This one is for sure rough. I don't know Park that much, but I know Gray, and holy smokes, I've seen some special houses there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Where can we make some money?
Okay.
Come on, man. I'm on the edge of it now.
Okay. So we're going to talk about some of the areas of Chatham that we like and do encourage people to invest in, and we have invested in personally. Again, it's not a hard and fast rule. You are going to find some things in the area that maybe aren't the best, but for the most part, as a general area, we like it. So this area, Park Ave, we talked about Park Ave before. So Park Ave basically goes east and west through the city, and then you'll see Queen Street there at the top that kind of goes north and south. So we're looking more so in the western part of the city, and then going basically southwest, I guess is what it would be considered. So there are a bunch of streets in there that I would consider family neighborhoods, and you might not find as many multi-families in that area, but you're going to find a lot of those small single-family wartime homes that provide amazing appreciation over time, and you get great rents on them as well, because people who are renting, they want to live over there too. There's good schools, there's grocery stores, stuff like that. So there's lots of stuff in that area, and we're just seeing that anytime that properties come up in that area on the MLS, they just get gobbled up, multiple offers. And so we personally own some property in this area. There's a couple of streets kind of right in a row, like Dunn, Sunnyside, Willow Mac. I own a property on Sunnyside. My mom owns one on Dunn. And we're just seeing that, those are the homes that do super, super well. It's not really a sexy investment, but it's something that is it's been tried and true, and they keep doing well.
And there are some, in this whole area, there are some multifamily, there are some fourplexes, there's some duplexes. There are not a ton of duplexes, but there's quite a few semi-detached. So those are also we find really strong investments. And
then we just picked another area that's more so on the north side of Chatham. So we were on the south side before, now we're moving over to the north side. And again, we own property in this area. So you'll see that we have, this is at the Grand Ave running at the bottom there in yellow, and then going up is St. Clair Street, I believe. And so there's a nice little box in there that some people who are not from Chatham might have heard of, like Victoria Ave, which is one of our most historic streets that is beautiful. But there's streets off of Victoria Ave that Chatham was building a lot of multifamilies and stuff in that area. So streets like Forest, Selkirk, we have properties, duplexes on those streets. And they've been really, really solid. Like, we would consider that more of like a B profile. Mm-hmm. And great tenants, taking care of the property. And you find that the neighborhood around that, people are really respectful of their property. And, we're seeing the appreciation in that area go crazy as well. The values have shot up, the rents have shot up, and we just think that, you know, it's a really solid area to be in.
And those are all, you know, what we would consider very affordable areas to be in.
Awesome. Yeah, I think some of the things that you guys have talked about here, right? Potentially smaller properties on that last section, and potentially, you know, smaller but nicer houses here too. I think one of the things that gets overlooked here often is the danger we put ourselves in when we go for too crazy of a project, right? We go way overboard, and that's where we run into things like scope creep and potentially issues with getting contractors and stuff like that to do some of the harder stuff. These small areas where you've got your B, potentially even A type quality of inventory, and you can go in there and do an easy job, mostly cosmetic, usually I would think. You're in and out of there. And the nice thing with these areas is you're almost not, and you can't say guaranteed, but you're almost guaranteed to get a strong appraisal, right? Because you know the financials are there, you know you've got good sold comparables, and you know that you can get those strong market rents if you're choosing to keep the building. And I think if you're looking at strategies like Matt's always talking about here, like the BRRRR strategy, what better place than a neighborhood where you know they've seen great appreciation, they've seen really strong market rents and everything. So I think this is super insightful, and honestly, that looks like a bit of a textbook on where to invest in Chatham, and there's some great larger areas there. So that's awesome, guys.
Yeah, it's a good point with the BRRRR strategy, because these are some of the areas that we would think those would do very well. Whereas, you know, like if we look at, say, the Park Street area, you know, we've seen some very nice houses on Park Street. Yeah. They've looked really good, but and then when you see what they sold for, they just don't get what, you know, if you put that over on Selkirk Street, you know, you can put you can add a few dollars to the value, right? Yeah. But if you're trying to BRRRR on Park Street, you're probably just not going to be able to squeeze that equity out. I mean, again, it's not a hard and fast rule, but just generally speaking, we would be much more inclined to advise an investor to be in these areas that your investment is probably going to do better.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you just always got to think the locals know the area, right? So that dictates who's going to want to live there. And then almost as important as that is, so does the appraiser. Right? They're there all the time. Okay. So when they see a bunch of drugs in oh, I just appraised the house down the road. Oh no, that's actually terrible. What did it look like? Well, you know, people and things were crawling from the ceiling. So that can be scary. So you guys mentioned you might have some numbers you wanted to go over.
Yeah. So one of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to just go over, we mentioned on our last video that there was going to be a potential investment opportunity coming up. And this was a small single family, 2-bed, 1-bath home. And this is kind of what I was talking about in terms of that Southwest district. You can see this one was at 125 Edgar Street, Southwest District. The small kind of 2-bedroom home, again, nothing too exciting about it, but solid, like really solid. So we had listed this was a listing of ours, and we had listed it for $219. We had probably about 25 to 30 showings on the property, and you know, came away with 4 offers. So there's some great offers put forward, and the property did sell for $285,480, and that was a cash offer. So there were no conditions. And on the last video, we figured that we were running the numbers at $285. And it's basically exactly where it fell. And there were still some cash flow to be had. I can't remember exactly what the numbers were, but it was still positive cash flow, I think at least a couple $100. So here's an example of a property that was actually flipped. So somebody got this at a relatively good deal, one of our clients, and he was able to go in and just put a lot of the cosmetic touches on it. But he also did a full, you know, some of the bigger components, like some electrical work and whatnot. But, you know, he was able to squeeze out a lot of value just by doing, you know, making it look really good. He paid for the staging. He did the new flooring. He did a new bathroom. And, you know, it didn't cost him an arm and a leg, and he made out really well on the project. And that's the type of potential that there is in this Southwest region of Chatham. Again, not very exciting, but solid investment.
That's awesome. Boring investments are the best.
Exactly.
But it sounds like strategic renovations are really still just the key here, right? Kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, lighting, landscaping, paint. If you can do those things, you're in the money. More often than not, anyways. It's never a guarantee, but I mean, that's the way you do your best to guarantee it. So that's super cool, guys.
Exactly. Okay, and we just wanted to bring this. This is another opportunity. It's in Tecumseh, just part of Windsor, just outside Windsor. Beautiful community, definitely an A community all around. And we have this. It's actually a duplex with a fully finished coach house in the back, like a converted garage. We had this on the market at $750. And as Dane said, because of the softening all around, we decided that we would take it off for a bit. We had it on for a couple weeks and just decided, let's take it off and kind of wait for the market to shift a bit. But what we've decided to do is we talked to the owner, and we wanted to bring it forward to this group to see if there was any interest. It's a solid investment. It is a legal duplex, front unit, 1 bed, 1 bath, beautiful. The back unit's a 4 bed, 1.5 bath with its own backyard space. And then the coach house is a 1 bed plus a den and 1 bath. And it's got an in-ground pool that all the tenants share. It's fully tenanted with strong rents. It's strong cash flow as is right now. The duplex is a legal duplex. The coach house is not, it's kind of an as is. It's not a legal entity, but many homes in the area have coach houses. So I think you could easily have it rezoned for that, but it hasn't been done yet. So we just got a few pictures just to show you the quality of this place. Like, this is a really solid home. The coach house is really kind of an interesting space. That's the coach house. And then this is the front 1 bedroom unit, which again, you can see it's beautiful. We only had tenant pictures of the back unit, so we didn't use those because they weren't great, but very similar kitchen, and then 4 bedrooms upstairs with a full bath and then a half bath on the main level. So really great quality spaces. And what we did is we just ran the numbers. So we're offering this at $690. We brought it down to $690, and just we've got some. I ran some of the numbers here just for you to see. So the rental income is at just over is $55,620, and 3 units. We've figured the vacancy in there. You can see, the taxes, insurance, and heat and hydro, all of those things, because the only unit that is inclusive, they're all inclusive other than the back unit, which pays its own gas. So the operating expenses are $17,000, and which leaves us a net operating income of almost $37,000. So we ran this at a 2% interest rate, which I think you can do better than that. 30-year, and so cash outlay $148,000 approximately. And let me go to the next one. So this is your potential. This is the cash flow currently. So over $1,000. So we think it's a pretty solid investment and really nothing to do. It's fully tenanted. With good, solid tenants, definitely, I would say, A and B tenant profile in an amazing area of Windsor. So it's a really solid investment. We're surprised that it didn't sell at the higher price, but obviously bringing it down to this price makes it a really attractive investment.
Nice, guys. That's awesome. Yeah, the photos look great there. I mean, that looks like it's in great condition, and you know, obviously it's very tidy and everything. That the coach house actually looks quite a bit bigger than what I first imagined when you say coach house.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Awesome, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys coming so much onto the channel and just sharing these insights. I think if somebody goes back and watches this again and just looks at those areas where you guys say it would be favorable to invest, I think there's a lot you can pull out of there and some great insights. And again, I just think it's so great to have local experts that actually buy in the neighborhoods that you're talking about. And like, I think every area you mentioned, you literally had a property. So I think that's super cool. So yeah, again, thank you so much for coming on the channel. And how should we reach out to you guys at the Appleton team?
You can anybody can reach out to us on Facebook. I think it's at CK Living. And on Facebook or on Instagram, I believe it's at the Appleton Team or at Appleton Team. It's one of the two. So you can easily find us on both platforms. But then I think some of our info will be linked in the description that you can connect with us directly. And we're always happy to chat with anybody about investing in real estate in Chatham. If you're just interested in knowing about some of the stuff or knowing about what we have going on, we'd love to sit down and chat.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. Yes, all the links will be in the description. So do please take the time to reach out to Kelly-Anne and Dane here. And if you have any questions about their market, I know that they're going to give you the best information that's available. So that's how it's done, guys. And I think this insightful talk should give you more ammunition if you needed it to go and just make that jump into potentially investing in the Chatham-Kent area. So thanks again, guys. And as always, have a great day.
Thanks.
Thanks, Adam.